Forward. The following story is not meant for children. There will be uncensored swearing, themes of self-hatred, and graphic depictions of violence. Viewer discretion is advised. Too many characters for me to credit in this sequence. They will be in the description. Summer Leagues Round 1, Chapter 3.
Who even is that guy?
Overdraw hissed under her breath as her blonde head swayed from the alcohol. It was a passing feeling as she sat on her bar stool glaring daggers at the asshole that had been flirting with her nemesis. A nemesis that had now been turned into a giggling college kid from a bad rom-com. She had been sitting at the bar in the Fox's Den, the sound of a much more muted party bouncing around the now stuffy area. What had been something enjoyable soured quickly in his presence, like acid in milk, after he'd gone and picked through her entire bracket in a torrent of misery and pranks. She and a handful of his other victims sulked together just out of earshot of the man.
I dunno,
Toffee replied. The rabbit girl rubbed at her sore chin and winced gently.
I thought it was an invitation-only event. He just showed up.
He's a dick, Zeke huffed. The short dragon woman had her arms crossed and she glowered along with Rebecca. He said his name was Graz, but that's all I've heard from him. Saki, the barkeep, snorted at that. Anything else? Quinton asked, their head on the table, their red hair spilling on and over the edge of the bar. They looked sick like a dog. Zeke shook her head. Nothing. Overdraw turned her head to the trail of controlled destruction that the man had left across the tavern. He had been an absolute menace of a human being for just about everyone present. He goes by Naligram. The bartender finally put her 2 cents in as she put a drink in front of Quinton. They looked at it warily with one eye before looking up to Saki. Toffee snapped her finger and looked back at Overdraw and Zeke.
Oh, I heard one of the crossguards talk about him. He's the guy that took a swing at the Godeater. And he's still here?
Overdraw balked. The whole end of the bar did as they all turned their heads to look up in shock at the relatively unimpressive man. He must have been an absolute nutcase. Don't get it twisted. Put down by the Godeater is probably more accurate, Saki interjected before gossip could erupt. He took a swing, and she knocked him out with a light slap. A phone began to ring. Saki's head picked up as she held out a finger. 1 second. The Oni stepped to the side and pulled a nondescript red receiver off an older telephone base. Well, he doesn't have a tail, so he's not a competitor, Quinton mused as they sipped gingerly at the revitalizing mystery concoction. Zeke shook her head, crossing her arms. This stinks of something, though. I don't like it. What's he doing at an invite-only event if he's not a competitor? A very true statement. A statement Overdraw might have paid more attention to were it not the liquid courage running through her veins. You're sure? Saki's voice sounded just a little shocked. There was a moment of consideration, and Overdraw saw her nod. Of course. I'll let him know. She hung up the receiver and reached underneath her bar, looking at the group who had been gossiping. I'll be back in a minute, the Oni stated before pulling up a large iron key. She walked over to Graz, or Naligram, or whoever the hell this guy was, and bent down to whisper in his ear. Overdraw saw his hood pick up at whatever message Saki had to give. A slimy grin spread on his face as he pushed himself off the bar, kissing Pandora's hand. Well, Summer League's contestants, it's been fun, he said proudly, with one hand wrapped around Pandora's waist, and the other waving over at the victims sitting with Overdraw at the bar. But I'm sorry to say I gotta turn in for the night. Important business, after all. Overdraw found herself having a moment of relief as she saw him pull away from the bar, the hope that he'd be gone and she could go back to enjoying her night coming to mind. Though the hope waned slightly as he didn't go to the entrance where they all came in from. They were dashed as he turned to the right and went up a set of stairs. Sorry for the late upload and odd quality of the video. I've been, playing around with some settings, so it might be a little bit awkward. Things should be getting back to normal. I have to work on soundproofing this room because I am currently in a corner, but one thing at a time. I hope you all have a good day and rest well, or whatever. Farting noises.